And welcome to Sports on Tap. It's our Summer Spotlight series. I'm Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy joining me here as well. And our guest tonight is from Westlake, Ohio. She went to Magnificat High School, then on to The Ohio State University, where she has been sensational. And there's a laundry list of things she's accomplished. I'll say most of it, not all of it. And we'll go from there. But she's an indoor Big Ten champion, indoor Division I national champion, outdoor Big Ten champion, Big Ten meet champion, Big Ten all-time record, outdoor Division I national champion, and add USA Olympian to that list now. Adelaide Aquilla joins us. And Adelaide, thanks for joining us here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for having me on.
Now, don't get mad. I know I probably missed about 10 other accomplishments. So, don't be mad about that. But I wanted to at least give a perspective that, you did so many amazing things, and congratulations on all your accomplishments. What a fun way to go this last year, especially, it was a tough time, but you did some amazing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely missed a few, but I didn't really keep track. There's just such a long list that it's hard to. But this past year has been an amazing experience. The support I've received all year has just been unbelievable. People reaching out for me from like Michigan area, like Ann Arbor, Ohio State. I was like, wow, that's impressive. But they reached out to me and were just like saying good luck and everything. So it's just been a really good roller coaster this season.
Very cool.
So, well, first of all, congratulations for all your success and being a United States Olympian. How does that feel? Like, you went to Tokyo. We were talking briefly before we came on the show, talk about some of your experiences, but we'll mention here. But just talk about that feeling of representing your country.
Yeah, so it actually didn't hit me that I was at the Olympics until I was about to get on the bus to go to compete. So I was sitting in my room, I had my uniform on, and I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was like, you're competing at the Olympics. And that's when it really hit me that I was an Olympian. And it was a very overwhelming feeling, but I'm very grateful to represent United States and everybody in the country. But from that experience, I think one of the biggest things that has happened to me since has been like a lot of people recognize me at grocery stores, and I'm not used to that. I'll be like walking in there like looking like a bum kind of, and then they'll come up to me and be like, you went to the Olympics, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, I'm just trying to get my pasta, like my eggs and everything, and they'll just come over and like have a full-blown conversation. Obviously I'm grateful for it, but it's just a weird experience to like be recognized like that.
That's awesome. And being at Ohio State and having all the accomplishments there and the USA Olympian, I think you'll probably get that more times than not now. And you might not be used to it, but I'm sure when you're in Westlake, Ohio, you're going to probably get that a lot.
For sure, yeah. I actually went home for a couple days after I got back from Tokyo, and I was going over to see friends, and everybody was just so overwhelmed and like overjoyed that I was coming to see them. And I had so many like people reach out once I was in Cleveland to be like, oh my gosh, like we have to catch up. It's so good to see you. I just want to like congratulate you, that type of thing. So it's been really awesome. I saw a couple like small businesses and my old high school posted like good luck signs. And so that was really great to see too.
That's awesome. Now talk a little bit about how you did grow up in Westlake, Ohio. What was it like for you? How did you end up getting into being a shot putter? Because that doesn't happen often. And I know we talked to Katie Najat about pole vaulting. That's another, niche sport. So how did you get into it, and what was it like growing up in Westlake for you?
So a lot of my summers were spent up at my cottage on Middle Bass Island. So it's like a little bit over Catawba, right by Put in Bay area. So a lot of my summers were spent up there, and it was just like constantly outside. Like we were always on the lake. We were tubing, water skiing, all that type of stuff, running around without shoes on, just like all this little things that I think back now and I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like I was able to like water ski for like an hour at a time. And I was like, all right, this is kind of cool at the time. But now I'm like, that might have like had a little bit of a part into it. So from that, I went to St. Raphael Elementary School in Bay Village, and we had this thing on our track team. I think it's called the Raider Award or something like that.
Okay.
And if you did every single event on the track in a season, you would get a sweatshirt. And it was this really cool tie-dye sweatshirt when tie-dye was in. And it was just like, all right, I want the sweatshirt. And I was about like halfway through my events, and it was my weekend for shot put. And I guess I did pretty well because my coach made me stick with it for the next few meets and everything. And I think it was like I was in 7th grade, so I still had a year. And so I never got the sweatshirt, but I did gain an Olympics experience from that. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah. But I think in high school, my dad threw discus. So I guess throwing does run in the blood a little bit.
Okay. I was going to say, I wondered if when you were at Middle Bass, you talked a little bit about, being at the beach and stuff, if you had rocks and you were just tossing them up and getting practice that way, just on the beach, swinging around and throwing it, getting practice and starting that way.
We always had like a little competition, I would say like every 3 weeks or so. And it'd be like, who can throw the rock the furthest into the lake? Obviously, like, it was like a tiny rock, but at the time I was smoking everybody. And my brothers would always get so mad. They were like, how are you throwing it so much further than us? Like, it's not fair type of thing. But
it's good competition.
I guess that did have a part in it, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's very interesting that you said you were like 7th grade, you kind of got introduced to it. I have a daughter that's in 7th grade now, and she's currently running cross country, but wants to do track, in the springtime. Did you just, forgive me, I didn't do these sports when I played, but are these type of sports that you just kind of fall into and you fall in love with? Or is it just something that it's just interesting and you want to try it and you're just, naturally good at?
I would say, so it kind of depends on like you and your interests. So like me at the time, I was just interested in doing sports and like competing against people and just having fun with the team and everything. So for me, I was interested in doing well and like going with my team to like these high level meets, even though it was in 7th grade, I was interested in competing against these like older girls that I thought were a little intimidating, but I was like, I think I can like beat them and that type of stuff. So to go into those meets, you have to like have an interest in the sport and competing. I would say that's the biggest thing that gets you into like the niche sports, like or shot put or hurdles or that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you went to a Magnificat High School. What's some of the memories you had there, whether it was doing shot put or just regular, classes or with friends, or what's some of the memories you had at Magnificat High School?
So Mags, to start off, all girls school. So I would get up 15 minutes before school. I would sleep in my school shirt the night before because the shirts were actually pretty comfortable. I do have to say they weren't like a button-down shirt. They were just like a nice little t-shirt material. I would sleep in my shirt, put my skirt on over my shorts, run out the door, get a coffee on the way to school, and then go into class and be like perfectly on time. I never really had to like worry about like impressing people or anything. So it was always just kind of like, oh, roll out of bed, go to school. So I think that was one of the things that really stuck with me. And then coming to college, that was kind of a weird transition. Like having to pick out outfits for class. I never had to do that. So that's one of the things that stuck with me. And then I think just like the closeness of our grade, we had about 200 girls, I want to say, in our grade, maybe a little bit more. And so I was pretty close with everybody. I mean, I know everybody by name, and I could like reach out to any one of them and be like, hey, like want to meet up, get coffee or something like that, catch up for lunch. I think that was one of the big factors of like how my experience there went. And then just like a lot of the teachers there were girls. So I think that was a little bit like comforting for me, and it gives like more respect for like females in positions of authority or like positions of power, just because like I know it's like difficult to get into those. So, you know, I give more respect to them when I see them in that position.
Absolutely.
So what you're telling me, and Rob, you need to take note too, because I have 3 daughters and Rob has 1. Boys are a distraction when you get into high school. So
I could have
and
told
middle
you that.
school. So that's one thing we have to be mindful of. Well, that's very interesting. That I didn't really think about that. Now, do you think that helped you in your academics and your athletics in high school? The fact that you didn't have as many distractions at let's say kids do nowadays if they go to a public school.
I definitely think it helped out academically just because I was more comfortable answering questions and getting it wrong. Sometimes, like when you're not as close with other people in your class, it feels a little weird answering or just like in fear of embarrassment. So I think that was definitely a factor. And then just athletically, I don't know if it was good or bad for me just because I was the only shot putter there. So I think if I had a guy shot putter to throw against, I would have a little bit of competition to build upon. If he was throwing further than me, I would like have a little bit more to push for. So being the only like girl shot putter there was a little difficult at times just because there's no competition, but it worked out.
Well, to that point, you hear a lot of athletes say, a lot of it is self-motivation. So when you don't have that level of competition, did you have to find yourself focusing more on self-motivation, trying to be the best, against yourself more?
Yeah. So I had a coach my freshman year, and then he left. So I had to go out and find a different coach. So then I had him to help me with that self-motivation. And then eventually he started coaching somebody else from the nearby high schools. And we were just practicing together and kind of pushing each other to different like levels that we weren't used to. Cause I would work out with the guy that I was training with at the time. And we would just kind of push each other and, like play fight, oh, I did more in curls than you type of thing. And just go back and forth like that. So I think that was definitely a good factor, but it takes a lot of like self-motivation to continue to do well at especially like high levels, because there's a lot of times like from being on teams where you're like a high school team or a college team and then going and competing professionally. Obviously this is just for track, but like you're traveling with just you and your coach. So like it's just you going to compete. You can't really have that teammate behind you saying, all right, I think you should go up, like push yourself a little more type of thing. So you have your coach there, but it's still a lot of like self-motivation in yourself and just continuing to push yourself.
Now, to educate some of the viewers out there that might not know a lot about shot put, how would you, in simple terms, describe, how shot put works? And I know, obviously, I have a bunch of questions when the difference between high school and college and then going to the Olympics, what are the differences with those?
So the simplest way I describe shot put is you have about this big of a metal ball and it's 9 pounds, which is basically the weight of a paint gallon.
Okay.
And so you have that on your neck and you spin in a circle and you can't step out of the circle and you have to make it in between these sector lines. If it goes out of the sector, it doesn't count as a throw. And you basically try and throw it as far as possible.
I was going to say, mine, I'd probably lose track of me spinning around and it might end up in the stands or something. That'd probably be the way I would go.
Oh, yeah. We do some drills where it's like you have to spin on your left leg, because the left leg's the leg that I push off the back. Obviously, for lefties, it would be the right leg. But for me, it's my left leg. So we have these drills where you do 2 spins and then you have to go into your throw and like land in the front. And sometimes during those, I do get a little dizzy.
Now, what's the difference, would you say, with high school? Obviously, the distance, maybe, of how far you have to throw it between high school, college, and then, pro, which would be, the Olympics.
Right. So for me personally, I did not lift at all in high school. I lifted my senior year and a little bit my junior year. But I solely did like Olympic lifting, like snatch, jerk, cleans, like that type of stuff. And then I did some auxiliary work. I never benched. I squatted occasionally, but it wouldn't be like a lot. So coming into college, that was the huge difference for me. I was benching like 3 times a week, maybe 4. And I had never benched before. So I was like all over the place, trying to control the bar. But that was one of the big differences for me. And then I would say the level of time you have to put into it increases a lot from high school to college. In high school, I think I would throw like 3 times a week, lift 2 times a week. And then once I got to college, it would be throw 4 to 5 times a week, lift 4 to 5 times a week in the preseason. Then once you get in season, like obviously you taper off and do less reps and everything like that. But that was the big difference for the like training part of it. I think the competition part is a lot different too. From high school, you see a lot of the same people, especially if you're competing in state. You see a lot of the same people, at the meets. You'll see like the girl from Medina or Bowling Green or something like that. You'll see all of them every weekend, basically. Once you get into college, you're seeing new faces basically every weekend. So that was interesting for me. And it was weird. I never traveled in high school for track. I think I went to New York for 1 meet, and then that was it. So to go to Florida 1 weekend, Arizona, then California, it was just a weird transition into getting into that. So I think those are probably the 2 biggest differences, I think, or 3 biggest differences.
Yeah.
Now, talk about like while you're at college at Ohio State, you're talking about all this work that you have to do the off season, and when the season is going on, you have obviously your schedule that you have to maintain, but you are at a world-class university and you do have to take classes. So talk about that balance that you had to have in order to compete at your top level.
Right. My freshman and sophomore year, it was very tough to adjust to this schedule just because I wasn't used to committing that much time to academics and that much time to sports as well on top of it. So my first 2 years was very difficult for me to transition. I would either 1 week be like fully focused on track and like turn in my homework, but then like have quizzes the next week and not like do well on them. So that was a big transition for me. So once I started getting into my junior year, so 2020, I started to write out like my weekly schedule on what I had to do, where I had to be, what assignments I had to do on each day. And that's kind of when I started getting into the rhythm of things and really being able to balance being an athlete and being a student at such a great institution.
Well, in speaking of being an athlete while at a university, big news, lately is the image, name, and likeness. And there's some football players now that are making close to, $1 million reportedly. We kind of talked a little bit before we went on about, the difference between the big time sports and the niche sports like you're in. Talk about how that name, image, and likeness can possibly benefit like an athlete like yourself and many other in your position.
Right. I mean, as we talked about before, it's definitely gonna favor towards the big name sports, football, basketball, some baseball teams, wrestling, maybe a little too. But for these niche sports like track or synchronized swimming or something like that, there's a lot of opportunity for small businesses who can't pay out these really big athletes to come to us and be like, hey, we'll offer you so and so amount of money for you to represent us or put you on a billboard or something like that. So I think it's going to be very beneficial for us. I mean, obviously, like, everybody's still hoping for the big contracts with Nike or Adidas or something like that. But I think the little businesses and the hometown businesses is going to be where it's at.
Yeah, so if any businesses are out there, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Give yourself a plug, and like you said, there's a lot of small businesses out there, so you never know, what can happen. But talk a little bit about, Josh had a great question with the balance at Ohio State. You're obviously competing at Ohio State, but then is it the same? What you're doing at Ohio State, is it preparing you for the Olympics, or do you have to go above and beyond to then prepare even more for the Olympics? Is it double duty kind of with that, or how does that work?
So I would say each level of competition, so Big Tens, Nationals, Olympic trials, and then Olympics, all have different levels that you need to prepare for. For me personally, in the position I am in right now at Big Tens, I know I can make a throw if I need to win and I'm in a 2-foul situation. Nationals, I know I can make a throw that will put me in top 3, but I have to dig a little bit deeper to get into that first position spot. Olympic trials, it was, for me personally, at the trials and everything, it was a all or nothing type of situation. Every single throw, I was just trying to get one out there further than the last. And that's not just like going faster in your spin. For me, it's really focusing on like 2 specific positions in the back of the ring and then making sure I'm facing the field when I'm throwing. So that was the things that I was really focusing on there. And then for the Olympics, it was kind of similar to trials, but I was still really trying to be relaxed and just try and compete with everybody. So I was really focused on just keeping calm and just going out there, doing my best and learning from the experience. I didn't want to look at it as like an experience that I'm going to go into later. I obviously wanted to do better than I did there, but looking back on it, it was a great experience. And that was my first ever international meet. So to have your first one be the Olympics is pretty cool.
Well, now this Olympics was, unique in the fact that when you watch on TV, it said Tokyo 2020. Obviously, with everything that happened within the world, it didn't happen. And at the Olympics, there was little to no audience, at the Olympic venues. Talk about, how that felt for you, and if there was people in the stands, if that would have been different, you would have had more adrenaline, maybe nerves. Talk about that experience.
So I would say going from Olympic trials where the stadium was pretty close to full to that was a big shocker for me, just because at the Olympic trials, everybody was super excited. Everybody competing and in the crowd was super excited to see what was going to happen, because obviously I would say Olympic trials is a little bit more difficult than Olympics because everybody's just gunning for each other's spots and it's hard to make the team and then go to the Olympics, So going from that to a completely dead stadium was very intimidating for me. I was not prepared for it to be that quiet. I swear if you dropped a ball on the ground or something, you would hear the bounce from the complete other end. So that was a little weird. It also being my first international competition was very intimidating. And the girl I walked in behind, her name's Valerie Adams. She got third. She got bronze. She's 6'4", and I've never seen a girl who's built like that, strong looking, that tall. And just walking in behind her, I was like, okay, this is a little intimidating, because everybody who competes in college is my size, or I've seen them at many different competitions, so I'm semi-comfortable with them. To go into that situation it was a little uncomfortable just because I've never competed with any of these girls before. You know, you kind of find a level of comfort seeing some familiar faces and then knowing like what the atmosphere is going to be like. So to walk into that, like not blindsided, but very unaware of what was going to happen was intimidating.
I mean, what was the Olympic Village like? You always hear, you know, it's a lot of athletes from all over it, and I didn't know if it would be a little bit different with obviously the restrictions, but you know, it looked pretty cool from, you know, just watching it on television. But what was it like for you? Did you meet a lot of different athletes from other countries that you became friends with, or is there friends with Team USA that you know you hung out with during that time, or what was it like in the Olympic Village?
So USA, so basically the best way to describe it is picture a college and how they have all of the columns of dorms. That's basically what the village looks like. And then right in the middle was the dining hall for everybody. So almost every country had their tower. Like USA had their tower, Japan, China, New Zealand, and then some of the smaller countries that didn't have as many people representing were sharing towers. And so I never really like went and explored too much just because we were only there for 10 days. So it was a pretty quick trip. But I did like the food at the dining hall. It got a little bland after a week of being there, you know, just having the same options, but it was really cool. They had about like a station for every country almost. And it was just cool to go to the different stations and test out their food. I do have to say the Japanese station was the best. Their sushi was
nice.
very, very good. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. What was your favorite food if you tried from another country? So it was Japanese
Japan.
food, huh?
Yeah. Their sushi was really good. They also had this ramen. Their broth there was really good. I think broth is what makes or breaks the ramen. From like just learning, just like coming back and having like box ramen or like little package ramen, definitely not as good, but that's okay. And then
so did they have an American booth? United.
Yeah.
What did they serve there? Burgers and fries, or
burgers, fries, and then they had spaghetti and red sauce.
Really?
And then I think they had like a pepperoni pizza or like meat lovers pizza, something like that. So I'd say it's a pretty accurate representation.
Yeah, interesting choices.
So we were only allowed to go into the village, and then we were allowed to go to the competition station during competition, and then USA had its own training facility. So at that training facility was basically like baseball, basketball, gymnastics, swimming. It was where everybody could train. And so they had a dining hall there, and their food was so good there. They had this green curry with shrimp and corn, and it was really good. And then they also had steak one day. So that was a fan favorite. I'm a big steak person, so to have that there was a little reassuring.
Yeah, you can't go wrong eating some good steak. That's for sure. I agree with you there.
Well, did you sit down and...
That's normally my pre-competition meal. I'll have a steak, baked potato, and broccoli and a salad.
Okay.
Did you sit down and have a steak with like Kevin Durant or anyone from Team USA basketball?
No, I'm so sad. That's the people that I was looking forward to meeting the most. I was like, all right, I'm going to see all the basketball players, take pictures with them. It's going to be so cool. And I never saw them. I was so upset. I did get to meet one of my favorite weightlifters. Her name's Maddie Rogers. She's like an Olympic lifter. Yeah. So it was cool meeting her. But I think I saw Simone Biles one day, but I wasn't 100% sure if it was her. So I just kept walking, and then I like looked back and I was like, yeah, that's definitely her. It's like, it's too late. It's too late for me to go ask for a picture now.
Well, hey, I mean, you know, you were the youngest, or one of the youngest, competitors, I believe, at the Olympics. I mean, what did you take away from the Olympics, you know, being a younger competitor in that field? And also, do you look towards Paris in 2024?
Yeah, I think the girl who's younger than me is only by like 4 days or something.
Oh
So we're
man.
right there neck and neck. Yeah. But it was definitely a really great experience. I think one of the biggest things I'm taking away from it is to learn how to not rely on situations that you're comfortable in. As I kind of talked about earlier, I'm comfortable with competing in the Big Ten nationally and just seeing all these different competitors. I have to learn how to be comfortable or do better in uncomfortable situations when I'm competing at these international meets in the hopefully near future.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely looking forward to Paris. I'm trying to learn French until then
Oh,
because
nice.
I think that would be a good skill to have while we're just walking around, hopefully exploring the city a little more than we were allowed to do in Japan.
Yeah, I
Now, do
mean,
you think oh, sorry, Rob.
no, go ahead.
How big, in your opinion, do you think this experience will be with your future experiences? Do you think that it's one of the biggest probably advantages that you have is that you've been through it, you know what it's like, so now you could prepare better. If
I
prepare in different ways, I shouldn't say better, but prepare in
Yeah,
ways that can make you more comfortable.
right. Yes and no. So I'm hoping personally that this is the last Olympics that there's no spectators or anything like that there. So I'm hoping this is the like one of the few to last times that there's not going to be anybody there. We're going to have the adrenaline of the fans and all of them celebrating. So I'm going to prepare myself if there is another situation like this, but also look past it and hope for better experiences in the future just to try and see like what would happen, how I would react to a stadium full of people and think about how the crowd's going to affect me and think about all the different circumstances that come with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, since the Olympics, I know you've been home probably a little bit, like you mentioned before. What's the support been like at home, and how nice is it to come back to Westlake and have the support that you had? Everybody obviously is watching, and you're on the biggest stage, the world stage. So what was it like coming back home and having all the support? Did that push you to say, you know what, 2024 in Paris, I really want to do this and I want to keep going and train and keep getting better?
Yeah, it was definitely a really great feeling to have everybody from not only Westlake, I would say like all of Northeast Ohio, cheering for me and supporting me in my journey. But I think one of the best things is just to like go home and I was able to see my family and just give them hugs because over the summer it was very strict on COVID and all of the school year. There was very strict policies at Ohio State for COVID, and then there were also strict policies for going into Japan. So from that, just like not really seeing my family all year, and then going to Tokyo, and obviously like or well, not obviously, but I was out in Oregon for 21 days. So I was out there for a while and I saw my family out there. They came and watched me throw at nationals and then again at Olympic trials, but I just really haven't seen them all that much this year. And I'm more of a homebody, so not being able to see them was a little tough, but to be able to come back and give them all hugs and just hear about how many people have reached out to them saying good job or good luck has been a really great experience, and it's very memorable.
What's the first home cooked meal that you had when you went home?
Prime rib with mashed potatoes, um, broccoli, and a salad. So
Ooh.
pretty close to my pre-competition meal,
There you
except the
go.
steak might be upped a little bit.
I was gonna say,
Right.
A little bit out of my price range.
yeah, I was gonna say, I figured you'd have a big juicy steak just waiting for you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome, and congratulations on all your success. I mean, what a great job you did last year, and you made
Hmm.
Northeast Ohio proud. That's for sure. And it's always great talking, and it's an interesting perspective. We had a lot of, my questions just went about 10 pages, I think, and we covered them pretty much all. Josh, do you have any
Yeah.
other questions or thoughts for Adelaide?
No, I just want to say thanks again for coming on with us and congratulations. You make it. We're happy that you joined our show, and I think I can speak for all of us United States citizens. Say we're very proud that you represented us, and we're thankful for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope I did a good job representing everybody.
No, you were great. Like we said, we really appreciate it, and hopefully we could talk again soon. And we'll keep track of you and keep promoting you. And any small businesses out there, Adelaide's looking for you.
Yes.
Do you have any information on social media you want to give out to some of our viewers, or where they can follow you on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook?
So my Instagram is Aquilla. So Aquilla. And then my Twitter is the same thing, except it has 39 on the end. So
Okay.
Aquilla 39. And then I'm keeping my Facebook private.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
just
that's fine.
for family right now.
Yeah, it's personal. So I know some people have like pages, so
I don't know how to do that, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep it private until then.
I don't blame you. There's a lot, with social media. It's everywhere. So, but yeah, we'll have your Instagram and Twitter also on our website with this video, so they can follow you on that.
Awesome.
And we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us. It was a lot of fun, and we'll keep following you, and hopefully we can talk again.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on.
No problem. All right, that's Adelaide Aquilla joining us, and what a great job she's done so far in her college career, and USA Olympian, and joining us here on Sports on Tap. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. This has been the SOT Summer Spotlight Series.